Season 1 is all about that dental school student or that new dental school grad or that transitioning dentist, pretty much giving the financial keys to success now that you're in a transition period. So let's go and hop into this episode, and we hope that you enjoy it. If you are listening to this via audio, there is a video format. We actually shoot these live in the studio on video format. You can check those out either on Spotify podcasts, on YouTube podcasts as well. Head to our Team Financials YouTube page. You'll be able to find all of these different podcast shows within the video format, if that's what you choose to do. Welcome to the Generational Dental Wealth Podcast. We're here with Kingsley Ifedi, CPA.
And Dr. Jermaine Ifedi, your doctor's favorite doctor. Yeah. Man, we're going to have a fun conversation today.
I think so.
Between a CPA and a dentist, honestly, a lot of the communication they have is really question and answer, right? It's more of, hey, let me give you a call. What is this expense for? What is this income for? Make sure they categorize it correctly. So indirectly, we're going to be giving you a glimpse into basically how a lot of our conversations when it comes to the bookkeeping side of things go. This is just going to be a very fun. At points, it's going to get very high level, like a lot of our conversations get. Exactly. So I'm going to turn it over from here.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we're going to have an amazing time today, a lot of fun today. Just really want to start, allowing people into the dental world mind. What does it mean to be a dentist, the day-to-day, your journey? How did you get here? Go ahead and invite him in.
So throughout the entire process of becoming a dentist, honestly, if we even go back to the beginning, we're from Nigeria. In a Nigerian household, there's a running joke that you either get to become a lawyer, a doctor, or an engineer. Choose one. Exactly. Choose one. So I chose one. I chose doctor. All right. So at first, I thought I was going to become an OBGYN. That's what I thought for the absolute longest. Ended up taking the entrance exam for medical school, and I took the entrance exam for dental school. I said, Lord, it's in your hand. Whichever one I do better on, that's where I'm going. I saw the entrance exam score for medical school. Then I saw the entrance exam score for dental school, and I said, God has been very clear. He wants me to become a dentist. So went on to be going to Chapel Hill for dental school, studied there for 4 years, had a good time, was able to shadow a lot of different residency clinics and really learn a lot of surgical components, learn a lot of personality as far as dealing with patients, hands-on type things when it came to the clinical side. So once I finished up, believe it or not, when I was graduating, everybody else knew exactly what they were going to do. I'm going to do a residency. I'm going to work for this private practice. I'm going to do this, X, Y, or Z. And I still remember it was about 2 months away from graduation, and everybody was asking me, what am I going to do? And I'm going to say, to be honest with you, I don't know, but I know what I want to do. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet. I knew I wanted to be a business owner, but at the same time, I knew I needed to get experience underneath my belt to make sure I provide the best care for my patients long term. So the question started to ring through my head, how can I get as much experience as quick as possible to make sure we're able to achieve our dreams of practice ownership? Yeah. And that's when everything came together on the contracting side. So I don't even want to get into the bigger terminology of travel dentistry. It was really just contracting between two doctors locally, traveling between their offices, 1 week at one office, the next week at the other office, and did that for a few months and really just learning different patient populations, the difference between fee-for-service, the difference between Medicaid practice, the difference between PPO offices, just learning the basic nuances. Because in dental school, it's another running joke that you learn enough not to harm someone. And once you finish school, that's when the true learning begins.
Gotcha. Now that makes sense. So kind of dive in, and I think you might have touched on it. It sounds like, after undergrad, you went into a master's program, the MBA program. Yes. Tell them a little bit about what that is and why you were influenced to go ahead and do that.
So a lot of people think that the MBA means that you know everything about business. And it kind of gives off that kind of connotation because it's called a master's of business administration. You think you're a master of business. In reality, the kind of things that we learn in our MBA program are very high level educational type things, right? Teach you how to work within a Fortune 500 company, teaches you how to evaluate certain deals. It teaches you how to solicit funding, teaches you about business law, how to be ethical within business. But it doesn't really teach you the nuances of a small business like a dental practice, right? Yeah. So in reality, going into the program, I didn't really understand that component of it. But what I did understand is that I had a love for business, right? Business is my love, it's my passion, and more importantly, it's my purpose to really do kingdom work here on earth. So being able to go through that process and learning the nuances of business really put my mindset in a different space by the time I started dental school. So as I was going through the entire MBA program, I'm learning, okay, so this is the difference between good businesses and bad businesses. I'll always tell my wife that the difference between a business being in business and out of business is cash flow.
Wow. Exactly.
Believe it or not, some fantastic businesses that just run out of cash. So understanding those small principles, I was able to take those things and be able to duplicate it and add it to the practice. And now really just have a solid foundational understanding of what it takes to run a dental practice on a basic level, which in a way helps because I don't have to solicit the help of a lot of different vendors within dentistry that I might have needed if not. Now, if you need the help, get the help. That's why there's a lot of professionals out there to help you get to where you need to be. It just allowed me to skip a few steps, right? Because I did spend those 2 years getting that MBA, right? But now there are still certain areas that I'm not necessarily either one, an expert at, or number two, is not the best use of my time to do. Exactly. So that's what you start to really learn as you're going through your MBA program. Because it's more of a leadership type program, you learn what areas to take on for yourself and what areas you need to delegate to better hands.
And not to steal your thunder on this, just to add my 2 cents into the conversation here, and that's one thing we always try to get our dentists and our business owners to understand is just because you know how to cut hair does not necessarily mean you know how to run a barbershop. Right. Mm-hmm. It's a different hat you have to put on. We're talking payroll for employees. We're talking management skills. We're talking knowing how to communicate with vendors. These are things that, you don't learn in dental school. Yeah. Right. So we always talk about how dentists are one of the smartest people on earth, when it comes to the craft and, putting in the years to build the expertise. But on the business side, right, just like me, I would not go and attempt to do a prophy or anything, or SRP as a hygienist, nothing like that, because I'm a CPA. Just like, as a dentist, you may need that extra hand on the business side to say, what are my taxes like? What are my books looking like? How can I build it? If I want to add an additional practice, what does it look like on the financial end? Right? Like you said, the best use of time. Yeah.
I'm going to take things even a step further than that. I'm glad that you really initiated this conversation. I'm going to say a very bold statement here, and I'm going to say dentists have possibly one of the most complex jobs that exist within healthcare. Understand, there are very few to no other areas within healthcare where you can, in one given day, deal with a staff issue, deal with a payroll issue, IV sedate somebody, meaning put somebody to sleep, as well as do a complex surgery on a patient, and then call somebody and tell them happy birthday. Wow. What other areas in healthcare are you dealing with so many different parts of your brain on a given day? And sometimes I sit back and I reflect, because we work 12-hour shifts. And I sit back and I reflect, like, how many different emotions have gone through my head and my body in a given day. It's tough. It's not an easy career path, but it's a doable career path. Once you realize the complexities that exist within dentistry, it allows you to now pick and choose which battles you want to take on, right? Because I love business, those are some of the battles I personally want to take on, right? But now if it has to do with a certain area that I don't necessarily enjoy, I don't necessarily have the bandwidth to be able to take on other areas that are not best suited for me. So just understand, like, as you're going through your career in dentistry, it's gonna change hats on which one you're gonna be wearing, right? Early in your career, you're gonna be trying to figure out how to do a filling, how to do a crown, how to extract the tooth properly, how to make sure you preserve a site. And then as things progress, let's say you do become a contractor. Now you're trying to balance between your different contracts, making sure that you're going to the right location on the right day. Then let's say you move into practice ownership. Now you're dealing with staff-related issues. Now you're dealing with payroll. Now you got to make sure you pay the state on time. You got to make sure you pay the federal government on time. You got to make sure you do all the different nuances, because understand, each entity you're responsible for demands the highest level of expertise, regardless of how much time you have to put towards it. For instance, the IRS does not care because you have a lot of IV sedations on why you didn't pay your taxes. Exactly. The same way, your patient does not care how many patients you have on payroll. They want the top-notch care. So understanding, as you're balancing those different hats, you're going to have to get help in different areas. And understand the areas that you're stronger in, you might not need as much help. But the areas you're not strong in, right, that you're not strong yet, you're going to get stronger with the help of other professionals in different areas.
Other professionals. Now, I'm with you in all the way. So I think you touched on a few different items here, and we always hear the term putting on multiple hats.
Yes.
Right? We've all heard of it. Speak to what are some of the specific hats that you wear on a day to day. First of all, as a dentist, as a doctor, serving your patients, and then second of all, as a business owner that has an entity and people that are on staff looking to him for leadership. Speak about your role and some of the different hats that you wear on a day to day.
Well, the first two hats I wear on a day, and in my opinion, the most two important hats are number one, I'm a family man, a man of faith. That's how I start my days, with meditation and just really focusing in on the reason I'm here and my purpose. And then number two, I'm a husband, right? So now I need to make sure my wife is taken care of because we work together, right? So it's not like we're crossing paths. She's going one way, I'm going another way, and I see you at the end of the day, right? We're hopping in the car and we're driving together. So now I need to make sure we're good. We're on a solid base, right? As we're driving to work, we pray and make sure the day is covered over all of our patients, make sure everything, again, whatever your personal routine is, stick to it and do what you do. But that's very, very important to us. Now, by the time we get to the office, now it gets business mode. So now, as an owner, first thing I'm doing is checking the mail, making sure all the checks come in, make sure everything gets cleared, make sure everything gets into the right hands. We're checking voicemails, text messages. Has any patient canceled? Anybody needs to reschedule? Has anything occurred? Has there any post-op sensitivity or pain that we need to address to make sure our patients are receiving the top-notch care? Then we go into our huddle. So again, more business mode. So really, in reality, it's not really until 4 or 5 hours into the day until I'm really clicking into the actual clinical mode of my day in my mind. So by the time I'm actually, after we finished huddle, after we finished setting up ops and everything like that with the assistants and just going through workflow, how the day is going to go, now actually first patient sitting down and we're actually hopping into the clinical component. And then from there, throughout the majority of the day, I'm handling more of the clinical aspects of the day. We have 2 providers at our office right now. So just really being able to do a majority of what I'm responsible for, which is more of the surgical side of things, and getting that where it needs to be, really defines the majority of my day. Then at the end of the day, you click back into business mode. You put your business hat back on. Now you need to make sure, is everything balancing out at the end of the day? Are the cash deposits making sense? Are the check deposits making sense? Are the insurance payments making sense? What has hit? What has not hit? Right? Like, who do you need to talk to make sure everything is where it needs to be and make sure the next day is really set up for success? You don't really just clock out and just walk out. You really have to close out your day. One of my doctors in our community here, Dr. Ikwanu, gave me some great advice when we were opening up. And he said, no matter how busy your day is, always make sure the books are balanced before you go home. Exactly. So for him to give me that advice, him being a medical practitioner himself, it really resonated, understanding that regardless, just like we talked about earlier, it doesn't matter how many hats you wear. Each hat requires that 100%. Exactly. So as a business person, you can do everything properly throughout the day, but not make sure your books are not balanced. And what's the number one reasons businesses go out of business?
Cash flow.
You don't have cash flow. So what do you do when you do everything correctly? Your patients love you. Your staff is happy. You're training. You're doing everything excellently well. Yeah. But you don't have cash to make payroll.
Yeah, and just to hop into the conversation, I'm a big proponent that, life is no light switch, meaning that, if one area is lacking, it's going to affect the other. I'm a big proponent in my personal life. Before I leave the house, my bed is always made up. Why? Because that helps me get into the mode of everything else that I'm doing throughout the day for it to be top-notch, excellent. Yeah. And one thing you said, obviously being a family man, a man of faith, making sure that that's taken care of first, because not only does that, for most people, affect their business life or their professional life, but you have to go to work with your wife. Yes. Right? So if things are not handled at the house, then maybe, some maybe open items that's left open and may affect your day going forward. Yeah. Right? So I'm a big proponent making sure that we have the balance, but I like even the word harmony. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, it may not be 50-50. You may be able to give 50% of your time to this, 50% of your time to that. That's balance. But harmony is saying on this given day, I may have to put on my clinical hat more than my business hat, yes, or I might have to put on my family hat more than my clinical hat, right? So speak to that balance, or like I said, I like the word harmony. Speak to that harmony, and how do you maintain that throughout your professional, family, and your business life?
I think the only way you can really maintain balance is that you have to understand that balance does not mean equality. Yeah. Because things are balanced does not mean that if you have 4 tasks, each get 25% of your attention. Gotcha. That means one might get 1%, another one might get 10%, another one might get 9%, and another one might get the rest. And once you understand that there is, first of all, it's impossible to have equality when it comes to your attention. Because how do you even calculate what 100% of your attention is, right? So once you understand that does not exist, now we can move into making some progress that it's about prioritizing. What are the most important things, right? Is it more important for me to make sure that the checks came in, or is it more important to check in with my wife, make sure she's in a good mental space, make sure we prayed in, make sure we're in harmony, right? So again, it's about prioritizing and figure out what's the most important in your sphere of success, right? It's going to differ for each and every person. That's the reason following exactly what I say might not get you where you need to be. It's going to take that introspective look to really figure out what is most important to me, right? There is one thing that I always tell my wife is that no matter if we do everything right on your plate, everything that's on your plate, if you can do everything right, but your number one priority is our family, if you don't handle that, everything else doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the exact reason why we wanted to name what we're doing here the Generational Dental Wealth Podcast, because It is bigger than your clinical hat. It is bigger than your business hat. It's all of it together.
Yes.
One is not necessarily outweighs the other, but they all, in a way, attribute to the entire success and the holistic of a dental professional, and really just as a person in general.
Yes.
So just bringing it home, it seems like we're kind of getting to the end of this episode. Go ahead and pretty much bring us home and what does it look like for you, and if there's any other thing that you want to add and contribute to this conversation, go ahead and let them know.
I think the first thing that you brought up earlier when it comes to balance also goes with wealth. I think in reality, the same way that we've been fed a misconception that balance means that everything has to be equal is the same way that we've been fed lies that wealth means money. Yeah. So again, just like I always tell her, if you do everything right and don't take care of our family, then it's not a successful day. Yeah. The same way you can have all the money in the world, but let's say if impact is important to you and you're not making impact in your community, you're not wealthy. Let's say that making sure that you're able to take care of your community is a priority to you, but now you have made all the money in the world, but you have not taken care of your community. So it's important for you to now put together what exactly is a wealthy life for you. Everybody has to start constructing what does their wealthy life look like. And once you figure that out, now we can start prioritizing and start coming up, what does that balance look like for you? If being healthy and working out is important to you, then again, you might have to miss 1 or 2 clinical hours or take a day off to make sure you're in the best mental space, right? Yeah. For me personally, that was always important to me. I like to make sure that I feel good, right? Yeah. I like to make sure that I'm able to now work out and be able to, your patients feel what you say more than they hear what you say, right? So when I'm telling them that, like, I believe in you, that you can get to your next level, that within you is a person that I'm so excited to meet in the future. Patients really feel that when I tell them that I'm really trying to be the best person I'm trying to be, right? So to me, that's important. Obviously, family is very important to me. So there are things that I'm stacking up in my levels of importance. And then again, if we get to the end of the day and there's no more time, then guess what? If I don't knock out 10 tasks, but I knocked out 3 of the most important tasks, today was a successful day. And that's the same thing when it comes to wealth. What is important to you? When it comes to, is it owning your home? Is it being able to have the freedom to go on vacations? Is it never having to worry about the next paycheck? Whatever it looks like for you, impact, whether if it be having a great name in the community. Once you figure out what that wealthy life looks like for you, you can start constructing it and putting all your time and attention towards the high value items of your life. I'm excited as we go throughout this entire journey. We're going to be learning from a lot of people and what their wealthy life looks like. Yeah. So as you construct yours, we're going to continue to go through and have some fun.
Awesome, man. I think this episode was extremely fun. So thank you, Dr. Ifedi, for allowing us into the mind of a dentalpreneur, mind of a dentist that wears multiple hats and has to figure out how to harmonize and balance all of those different hats. So it was fun. I appreciate you all joining us today. This is the Dental Wealth Podcast with Kingsley Ifedi CPA.
And Dr. Jermaine Ifedi, your doctor's favorite doctor. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Peace.
All right.